All right.
Welcome, everyone. Just to reiterate, kind of for everyone who is new here, maybe be their first time, or maybe you haven't seen us in a while and you kind of forgot how things go, which is totally okay. Terrance and I usually record these sessions. You can turn your camera on, you can turn it off, whatever you're most comfortable with. But we are going to do the first 45 minutes, give or take a few minutes. Uh, Talking about what we would like to share with y'all today. Whether it is new information or not, we hope it can help. And it's a springboard for the question and answer session, which we have afterwards. So we started recording. We're going to go through this. You can put questions and stuff in the meeting chat. Our lovely moderators, Andra and Jeannie, are going to be monitoring the chat. And if there are any questions that you have when we get to the end part, whether you would like to just type them in the chat or you're comfortable coming on camera and talking to us, we will do our best to get to everyone as best as we can with what time allows. Okay. With that being said, today, Terrance, how many how to choose a man events have we done now? 20, you think?
20, maybe I can't keep track. I know it's been a lot, but this is going to be probably the final one because now we have a collection of so much information, and then we're going to start focusing on on other topics. If you don't know who I am, my name is Terrance. I'm a criminologist. Ryan is an engineer, and we're going to go through information about really profiling. Understanding what high level men look like in the world around you, noticing what kind of people are looking for a serious relationship, signs that somebody is not interested in a serious relationship, and basically all of anything else you could think we're going to throw in there, Ryan.
Uh, an order to help save us some pain in the future. Because if we do first things first, it makes it really easy to move forward without getting too committed to a problem.
1000%. So let's go ahead and get started. So, one of what we want to start with is credentials don't mean character. And especially in 2026, where there is increasing levels of wealth disparity. You have some people that are making $1 million a day. You got some people that can barely make 30,000 a year. There is a tendency, especially on social media, to fall in love with people with money, to romanticize their lives, to romanticize who they are, to assume because somebody has a certain type of degree or a certain type of income, that means they're a good person. And this is extraordinarily dangerous because someone is good at taking care of themselves or creating resources for themselves, that does not mean that they're going to be generous with those resources or generous with their time or that they're a safe person to be around. And what we want to do when we get to profiling, especially profiling the types of people that should be in our life, is we don't want to jump steps and say, because the presentation looks good and they're safe. And with the next slide, we're going to go through our framework that we take everything through. So next slide. And the framework is ACERS. And these are the 5 steps and the 5 characteristics that the people in our life should likely have. And that's authenticity. They are who they present themselves to be. Consistency. They try the best to be that version of themselves. Empathy. They care about the lives of themselves and they care about the lives of other people. Responsibility. They take accountability for their choices and their life and self-sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice some of the things they might want for the greater good of the relationship and for other people. And these are the 5 frameworks that throughout my criminal justice career I've noticed really predicts like people that are really successful having relationships and people that are not. All right, next slide. And specifically when we talk about this subject of how to choose a man, we want to understand that a lot of the problems that a single man might have is actually a problem of entitlement. And I've argued this, and that's why I have no problem saying it, is people want an above average life without becoming an above average person. They want a relationship, they want, often a nice career. They want all these things. But the question is, are they willing to put in the work to make that happen? And it comes across very quickly in coaching. It comes across very quickly when I was out in the field looking at why certain people fell into crime, why certain people didn't go into crime, whether that was white collar crime or assault and batteries. It's the person wanted things, but they didn't want to go through the proper channels to get it. Is there anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
This is one of the most important lines of separation that men are distinguished from other males. And this is where men decide what other guys they're going to keep in their life or who are going to cause more problems. It's also one of the ways that when we're talking about high level men or a valuable partner to you, do they desire something, but they refuse to do the work? Now, it's okay to dream. It's okay to have stretch goals, and maybe you might not get to it. But to desire it to a point where you say it's a priority, but they don't do anything about it, is where we're starting to see the first ways of evaluating the man in front of us and start thinking whether we really do want to commit or not.
And that goes for men and women. And what I mean by that, this goes for men starting friendships with each other,
Hmm.
is be very careful bringing men into your life who desire things without desiring the work ethic that it will accompany it.
Hmm.
All right. That's
Now, part of those circles, part of high level men's circles or stable men's circles or friend groups or exclusive clubs, to boil it down to two things, is when you have a desire and you're willing to do the work, then we have two things we need to talk about. What is their knowledge? How do they come to learn about things, and are they curious? Are they ignorant? And do they do the work? So the first one is levels of knowledge and how a man decides how to move forward in his life. So when we are considering a potential man in front of us, whether they are for a romantic relationship or whether as a friend or even a business partner, somebody that if you bring into your life, you should be able to trust them, then we can easily start looking at their level of knowledge and how they make decisions. With the lowest level of the person is kind of just in the dark. They're unaware of what they don't know and they don't care.
Hmm.
Now, these people may be so in the dark that they don't really like to make decisions. And if that's the type of person that's in front of us, it's very difficult to move forward in life with somebody who doesn't want to make decisions and doesn't want to deal with the accountability for it. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It means it's very difficult to build any sort of foundation with them. Now, the next part is where people start to have knowledge of something. They might know about finances. They might know a little bit about business. They might know a little bit about relationships. They're competent in some way, but they're still partially ignorant. They don't know that there are things that they don't know. And this can be a little bit dangerous because people can move forward and make decisions that affect them and other people, but they never stop to be curious about what they're still missing. And the most problematic people that fall into this category are the ones that cannot and will not consider that they could be wrong or there's a better way of doing it. That doesn't mean they're bad people. It means they're still being blindsided. But a man who moves in life, through his life, with knowledge, on the path of knowledge, even if he's not successful in all of his goals yet, will reach them if he is of level 3, which is aware of the unknown. It means there's some level of competency. He knows something. He also knows that there are things he does not know or does not do well. That is the part where if a man is in front of us and he's on level 3, we've got some good signs because it means we have a curious person who's going to continue to grow and wants to do things right and wants to figure things out. We all are going to have problems in life where when they first come to us, we may not know how to immediately solve it. But if I've got a guy in my corner, whether he's my friend, my business partner, my mentor, or potentially my spouse, if he's of level 3 where he knows some things he can help, but they're always trying to figure out what they don't know, they're continually becoming more and more valuable. That's the type of person I want in my corner. I don't want somebody who's so convinced that what they know is right no matter what, and they're leading me towards the edge of a cliff. So that's the first part about knowledge. The next part is about action, which we will talk about in all over the rest of this presentation. However, it first starts showing up in the way a man makes decisions.
Just to add, I'm gonna put that image
Yeah.
into the chat just so you can close up see it because there's a lot of information on that image. So that should help everyone. I just put it in the chat.
Thank you, Terrance. This is a little bit of a busy slide and I won't touch on everything, but since he put it in there, you can download it and please feel free to ask more specific questions later on at the end. Now, those decisions can be based on how comfortable a man is operating within the realm of ignorance. A lower level man, somebody who can be a little bit dangerous to be around, it doesn't mean that he means to do you harm. It means that he's incompetent in a way that may cause you harm regardless
Yeah.
to both him and the people around him, is where they do not care about the things they do not know and they're not aware of it, but they will make decisions with such certainty when it will have an effect on the people around them without ever considering it. And they think only about their perspective, not other ways, not other way things can be done, not the way that it affects you, not the way that it affects his friends or family, the people around him. And anytime somebody tries to help out of the goodness of their heart with good direction, he will not accept it. He'll reject it. And all of the mistakes that he has done, he will continue to do because he's not learning on why he made the mistakes and how to not make them in the future. And this can be detrimental to a relationship because if we have committed to somebody who is comfortable moving through life being ignorant, it doesn't mean that they have to know everything. It means that they have to be aware that there are things that they don't know and be willing to pursue that path or be comfortable with it. But if they don't care, then they're making decisions that affect us without any understanding of how it will affect us. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Because even if you wanted to have a conversation with them, you won't get answers. And if we don't understand why somebody is doing something, it's very difficult to walk with them forward. Whereas a higher level man is aware that there are things he doesn't know, and he will balance and say, how easy or probable is it that I can make a decision on this and be successful with a little level of uncertainty? So even though he might make a decision to go forward where he doesn't know everything, he's still monitoring it and seeing where do I need to self-direct or redirect. So he seeks and welcomes correction. If somebody says, hey man, I know you've been working on this business or you've been at the same position in your job for 5 years now. Do you want something better? And he goes, yeah, of course. I've tried this. I've tried this type of upskilling. I've tried this certification and it's going nowhere. And you tell him, hey, man, actually, you just need to really talk to this one person. And your problem is that you don't know how to talk to people in meetings and they feel demeaned. That type of high level man will thank somebody for giving him direction,
Mhm.
not run away from it. He
That's
learns from his patterns. And one of the most important things I'm going to finish touching on this slide is that he's focused on results, not his ego. All of us feel bad. It is a natural thing to feel bad when we did something wrong or we were not able to do something on our own and reach our goals. That's natural. A high level man, somebody I want in my corner, is a guy that says, I feel bad, but that's okay. I want the better results because me and everyone else around me is going to feel better when I get the good results rather than focusing on my ego. So the final point, which is at the bottom of this thing, of this photo, is ignorance is not the same as not knowing. Ignorance is refusing to know. We are all naturally unaware of things, but it's different when somebody says, I don't know and I don't care. That's the dangerous part.
Mhm.
The ultimate question we should ask ourselves before ever getting committed, other than why should I commit to this person, is why should I trust this person? Should I? If we cannot establish a certain level of trust, there's no method of communication. There's no real method to get to know the other person and understand them. And all the reasons why we might choose to commit to them, they won't have a truly strong foundation. And we risk feeling like when we get into a relationship or a marriage, that the person is not the person we thought they were. And it usually comes down to we have not been able to establish whether we should trust them or how we can trust them in the very beginning. Is there
One
anything you wanted to add to that, Terrance?
1000%. Like literally, this is it. This is the main way I bring people in my life. This is when I'm doing coaching with people when they're looking for relationships. If you can't trust this person, if the environment around them doesn't trust this person, forget about it. Forget about it. You can teach somebody new skills. It's extraordinarily difficult to teach people morality, especially once they're set in their ways. And often when people come to me for coaching, they desire for coaching to turn the person that they love into a better version of them that the person doesn't actually want. That person doesn't want to be good. Being good is difficult. Being good means you're going to have to often get rid of certain people in your life. Being good means you're probably going to have to turn down money. If you spend much of any time on YouTube, you will see complete channels, large scale YouTube commentators that have sold off their entire channels to private equity companies. And
Mhm.
you can tell based on their content. They went from providing content to now just selling promotional activities, irregardless of whether those activities help people or harm their very communities.
Mhm.
But in order to be good, you have to say no to a lot of that stuff. And it the more you learn about someone and the more you learn about their opportunities, the easier it is to figure out where they stand. Such as, there's a lot of guys I know that make a lot of money, and you want to make a lot of money, involve yourself in interest. Anytime I can sell somebody a product where I make 27 or 32% interest on that product, the money is ridiculous. That's why so many car dealerships are not run like car dealerships. They really run like banks. Now, the question is when you're talking to somebody, or if they can tell on themselves, is it ethical to sell someone a product that that person really can't afford or will put them in a worse situation? Does this person care? Do they care? Or is all money or is all status, is that all that matters? And we're going to take this into something even more like something you can see because I like to bring up movies and series that anyone can hop in. So let's go to our next slide. If you want to watch a show where you get to see all different types of males, irresponsible males, violent males, loving males, males that are suffering from trauma, all of the above, watch the show From on Amazon Prime. I don't think there's ever been a better show that I have personally seen that shows you all the different ways that male suffering, male pain, but also the type of high level men that are out there sort of present themselves in the world around us. Let's go to the next slide. And one of these is, again, I'm going to bring it back to criminology, is you must always be aware of the man in yellow. Without going too far into who this character is, the man in yellow will present himself as the person that you think is your soulmate. He will present himself with the qualities you most desire. And that's the dangerous part, is he mirrors your desires, but he is not your desires. He's a sociopathic, narcissistic, psychopathic person. You usually find this type of person in areas of low context. And what I mean by that is low connections. You will find this person at a bar, you'll find them at a club, you will find this type of person at often at like a hotel lounge. You find this person in areas that have low accountability. And that's where the person is often presenting himself as if he wants a long-term relationship from a woman, or he might present himself like he wants to be great friends with another man. But all he has is identified something he wants to take from that individual. And you will usually see this probably within 3 to 6 weeks, most 3 to 6 months. And that person will eventually start showing you who he really is. And then that's where people have that switch up of like, hey, what the heck? I thought this was a great guy, or oh, I'm dating, or a woman but like I'm dating this guy and he started being cold and he started now he's showing you who he really is. So again, the character is in From, and that's a perfect example of the man in yellow, aka the switch up guy. All right, Ryan, go to the next one. Now, this is the next type of person I would recommend you would avoid. And that is the Boyd Stevens character from this show. And the problem with this character is he seems on the surface to be a high level man. On the surface, he appears to have his life together. But as the show goes on, you start seeing the cracks in the armor. For one, this type of man often carries the emotional weight of everyone around him until he breaks internally. So this is the kind of person that people might have depended on consistently, but he doesn't have a support system that he can depend on. He doesn't have a coach, he doesn't have a counselor, he doesn't have a therapist. This you see this a lot with somebody that has been in the military and done things, or things have been done to him that he doesn't want to talk about. So then they go into alcoholism, they go into drug addiction, they go violent behaviors. But at the end of the day, they're they don't have a support system that they can rely on. The next problem with this type of individual is they often believe leadership means isolating instead of delegation and trust. That's the person, and you'll see them a lot running businesses, where they don't trust anyone else's input. They will micromanage everyone around them. They isolate all the information, they isolate the entire reputation, and they believe that makes them a strong leader. But a strong leader is somebody that can teach the next generation, it can teach other people. You often find this person also in corporate America in middle management positions. They will micromanage all these individuals without the full understanding that they're not particularly a good manager. The next thing is they struggle to separate responsibility from control. They keep key information hidden from others to their detriment. So I'm also, other than a criminologist, I'm actually a licensed, I'm a licensed a bunch of things, but insurance agent. And the thing about insurance that's interesting is insurance has a lot of analysis components to it. There's something called an insurance score, and it allows an insurance agent as well as a company to know is does this person have a habit of paying their bills? Does this person have a habit of doing certain things like hiding stuff? It's a crazy amount of formulas. But one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is especially with Gen X and boomers getting older, there are a lot of people out there who have sold off their assets without their family knowing about it. They have emptied retirement accounts. They have emptied life insurance policies. They have cashed out whole life policies, quote unquote, and taken the cash value out. And then the family doesn't know until he died. And so what often happens with extremely proudful and prideful individuals is they don't want to admit they've made mistakes. And instead of owning up to the family or owning up to their friends about what they've done, they just try to walk away from it. They'll either try to walk away from it in death or just see if they can hide it to the end. And that's again a very dangerous thing. And Boyd does this in this show. He keeps key information from individuals, key information that actually puts a lot of lives at risk. Is there anything else you want to add to that one, Ryan?
Not this time. I think, as you said, we can go into a more in-depth analysis on the entire show as its own event. But I think we're good for now on Boyd.
Yeah, if anybody wants us to, we can do a full analysis on all the different archetypes of people in that show because it's I hate the show because like I hate that part of the show because people act stupid in this show, but as an analysis, it's great. But with that said, a common question I receive is where did the men go? Is they'll hear about all these bad men, about all these problematic men, the narcissistic men, the psychopathic men, and where did the men go? And so I'm going to ask you, Ryan, if you had to answer that question quickly, where do you think the men went? Where'd you go?
I went home. No, I didn't disappear.
Yeah,
It's not like I stopped going to the grocery store. It's not like I stopped going to restaurants. It's not like I stopped being part of the public. But what I did do is I stopped spending time around groups that brought me more problems and were not on the same or similar path as me.
beautiful. And that's one of the big things. Where did the men go? The men are focused on whatever path they're on, and they're only around basic society if they need to be.
Hmm.
They're less dependent on societal structures for their support system, for their income system, all of that.
Hmm.
And that's really what has happened. And they're around the people that they need to be around, and that's it. And that's where we have to get specific about the type of life we want to live. You don't start with the man of where's the man at. You start with what kind of life do I want to live? Specifically, what kind of life do I want to, where do I want to live? What kind of income do I want to have? What kind of experiences do I want to have? What kind of experiences do I not want to have? The more specific you can get, the more specific type of man you attract. You can take it from here, Ryan.
Absolutely. You touched on an important concept, which we're about to talk about in the next slide, which is you can focus on searching, but there's a point where even if you found the person, if you don't know how to notice them, and even further, they don't notice you, it almost doesn't matter that you found them. Now, that might sound a little bit scary because I said it doesn't matter, but the empowering part about it is there are ways that when you say and write down exactly how I want to live and who I want to be, and you embody that, sometimes you don't even notice them, but they notice you. That's what we're going to talk about a little bit in this next slide. There's the idea of searching, and there's the idea of noticing and being noticed. So we're splitting these into two categories. The one on the left, when we talk about searching, we're looking for the right man. If we start from this idea of there's only one guy, then if I were to put on paper, what is this person, the right person for me, you're going to come up with the most perfect person to you, whether it's realistic or not. And it can be very stressful, you know, looking through the 6 billion or what 7 billion that are alive now. Haven't kept up to date with the world population, but that there's only one for you. And you have to find that one man rather than saying looking for a right man. And that can make all the difference in the way we feel about moving forward with trying to find somebody. But this idea of searching, if you notice, it says you chase, you analyze, you try to figure out who's right and hope he's the one. When we chase somebody, it usually means they're running away. Like when a cheetah chases its prey. And I'm going to tell you right now, it feels really bad to spend all this time and energy running after somebody who's running away from you. I mean figuratively here, right? Figuratively. They don't care. They're not taking a step towards you. Their back is turned. They don't notice you. It's a whole lot of work. And oftentimes it can feel like trying to convince them that you're worth it. But when we embody the person that we need to be and who we're looking for in a relationship, we don't convince anybody with our words of trying to argue with them. And we don't convince them by going out of our way and doing actions we would never do to try and prove our worth. We convince them simply by being who we are and they take notice of it. So we don't chase. It's not that we don't do anything, it's that we don't spend energy on people who don't notice us, who don't care, and who are going in an opposite direction. And when it comes to analyzing, there's a good level of analysis and then there's over-analysis of trying to figure out, well, if I just did this, if I just changed myself this way, if I just said this different thing in the conversation, maybe I could have convinced him. That's the wrong idea. Because again, we don't want to change who we are to convince somebody to be with us. We should change ourselves because we deserve to be the person that we would like to be. Not to impress a stranger, to do it for ourselves. And when we talk about hoping he's the one, Terrance and I have talked about it quite a lot. Hope is not a strategy. But the best part about it is that it's not that you can't have hope. It's that people who are successful have a plan and enact it. And the happy people are the ones that have hope that they'll succeed. But the ones who are successful are the ones that put in the work and continue to move forward. Now, what noticing and attracting feels like is you have determined the type of life that you want to live. You have determined what is holding you back. You have decided who you're going to be. And that shows in what you do and how you speak and who you choose to let around you and what you choose to do and where you choose to go because it's who you are. That's your integrity. When you're at the grocery store, You don't have to always keep in the back of your mind, maybe I need to do this, maybe I need to be extra nice, maybe I need to do this other thing. Because if you're living the life that you want to live and you're the person that you're looking for, then you are naturally doing the things that will attract somebody to you. And when we say alignment, like recognizes like. So the type of person that you're looking for in a relationship, if you embody that type of person and the person that they would look for, that's how you align and attract those people. That even if you didn't notice them, they might have noticed you. And now we spend a whole lot less time thinking about, do I need to give this person my number? Do I need to set a date with this person? Do I need to talk to this stranger? How many strangers do I need to talk to? And more to, I'm naturally moving my life in a direction and getting involved in the things I should be getting involved in. And that naturally will bring me around other people like me. So that's what we mean when on the photo when it says you recognize the right energy and the right men stand out. The right energy is the way that you move through life and the decisions you make.
Yep.
That's how we lift this feeling or this feeling of a burden sometimes of having to search and look at this person and look at another stranger. And we're so concerned with strangers that we're not even spending the time on the things that we could do to move ourselves forward where we don't even have to worry about that. And it really it makes life feel less of a burden and a lot more fun and a lot easier to move forward. Especially, it feels good when somebody walks up to you to talk to you and you don't have to spend all your time trying to convince people to be your friend. It's wonderful. It's always nice when a stranger walks up to me with a smile because they notice something about me and they compliment me on it. I've had people compliment me on the way I take notes. I don't take notes and I don't write in cursive for people to compliment me. It's just who I am. And so if there's something about you that you love and that you want to embody and you do so, people will notice. That's what we're talking about. So the next part is don't skip steps. A lot of the time, we focus on personality rather than character and how somebody aligns with their future and goals. What I mean by don't skip steps is when it comes to somebody's personality, when they have charisma, when they have humor, they match our intensity. It's really fun to be around them. That doesn't mean that they qualify to be in a committed relationship with us. I can go to a comedy club and find somebody hilarious. That doesn't mean I want them as my friend, much less my partner. Now, personality is important. It means that we get along with them in a way that makes life fun and easy. Don't ignore it. We start with character. Someone's character is how they treat you, how they treat other people, and how they treat themselves. That tells you what a potential future with them is going to be or what it could look like. Then we talk about future and goals. What is their belief system? Does it align with me? What are their goals? Do they have a process of planning how they're going to get there? And then do they make it happen? Because if they don't, and we're trying to potentially plan a relationship with them, and they've proven that they can't make a plan and can't execute on it, why do I expect them to be stable and execute and plan and be a good, stable partner for me? It's very difficult to do that. So again, personality is important, but instead of starting with how funny they are and how charismatic, let's start looking at their character first. It's a much quicker way to weed out people, but also notice somebody who's extremely important and valuable because valuable people focus on their character. And one of the ways that we can start evaluating somebody is by looking at what they think and what they say is a priority in their life, but what do they do about it? How do they respect their own priorities? Do they organize for it? Do they plan for it? Do they sacrifice for it? And do they execute for it in order to make it a priority? Or does someone just say it's a priority and do nothing about it? Because when we are hoping to be in a relationship, we want the other person to make us and the relationship a priority. And if they can't execute on it, then we're not going to have the stable relationship we want. And we start by looking at their history. What were their priorities in the past and what did they do about it? Are they the same things that they're looking at now? And are they doing the same things now? Or are they improving? Now, once we look at those, like if somebody says, hey, I wasn't really looking to be in a relationship for a really long time, but now I am, and here's what I'm doing about it. Wonderful. Do we accept that the way they're treating that priority is good and we would like to be treated that same way in the future? And do we respect it? Or are we going to reject the idea of being in a relationship with them in the future because we're disregarding the way that they respect their priorities? We want to be a priority. We need to make sure they're going to treat us as an actual priority, and we look at it through their actions. So now we want to see if we align. And with alignment, one of the biggest issues that people overlook at the beginning of a relationship is what's called the two body problem. So when two people proverbially tie the knot, in some wedding traditions, they actually tie a knot of string around the bride and groom's wrist, right, to symbolize marriage. If they went and walked in 180 degrees opposite each other from other directions, neither of them are going to get very far. And you can even say that they're holding each other back. But if they walked parallel in the same direction, they're going to go as far as long as each one of them continues to take a step forward. So the two body problem is when you have two people going in different directions, neither one is going to achieve what they're looking for. And this often can lead to resentment or feeling alone or feeling misunderstood or even ignored in a relationship. Because even if we want to go down the path of making the relationship a priority and they don't, we're not going to be spending the time and making the decisions that are necessary to improve it every day and make it worthwhile. What did you want to add to this, Terrance?
Is I want to add one of the ways this shows up in male relationships is you have one guy that wants the other guy to do something with his time. And this is why guys of a certain level are going to hang out together, and it's going to be extremely hard to carry these relationships past certain stages in your life. So when all the guys are single, we all have a plan of what to do in our time. Maybe we'll go somewhere on Friday. Maybe we'll do this on Saturday. But as people start settling down, we're not our priorities change as well. And when our priorities change, likely the friendships are going to change. It's not going to be like a spoken, hey, I'm never going to talk to you again. But there will likely be an acknowledgement of, hey man, yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And then slowly the relationship fades away as the man finds other men that are more on his same path. And one of the things that has happened, particularly since social media is so prevalent, is men have gotten really good with finding men just like them.
Hmm.
So we've gotten really good at finding our quote unquote tribe to where like my favorite thing to do is Ryan's basic favorite thing to do. And then we married women that our favorite things are like their favorite things. And so that's one of the reasons that if we're trying to find specific people in general locations, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult. It's like finding good food at Applebee's. No, you're going to get Cisco basic bland food. And you're going to end up likely with basic. If you bring this in a relationship game, you're going to find yourself around a lot of basic relationships. When I say basic, you're going to have issues that shouldn't really exist in an adult relationship, such as people not being able to communicate. people not being able to adjust with the change of life. And when I say specific, I want to mean like if I was like, for instance, if I was a surfer, I can go to where the surfers are and I can go find a wife that's a surfer. Like, and this is the beauty of 2025, 2026, but also the most difficult is if we find how we want to spend the rest of our life and it's actually good for us and it's often good for other people, if we head in that direction, we will find better friendships, better relationships, and likely a better significant other than been looking than we've had throughout our entire lives. But the hard part is moving in a different direction because a lot of times, especially as a coach, when I start looking at people's past relationships, the person is basically dating the same they're dating different versions of the same type of person. And it can be difficult for them to realize that person is not a boyfriend, that person is not a husband, or to the men, that person that you're used to hanging out with is not your friend. It's an enemy portraying itself as a friend. And that's the hard part. Ryan, even within our group of friends, we all started together, but as me and you took our lives in different locations, we didn't, come together and say, hey, we'll never see each other again, but we kind of did.
When we had tough conversations with each other to help each other, there's a certain point where people didn't want that, so they stopped coming. And there's a certain point where we naturally did things that were different. And that's how some friendships fade away. So we want to take our life in a different direction, and they didn't want that. And so we naturally moved in different directions, and our time was spent in different places.
Yeah. And that's something that doesn't get talked about enough is like male circles have unforgiving logic, which is like if the relationship doesn't make sense, if you no longer find that the person that you're around makes sense to be around, the relationship ends,
Mhm.
just ends. But just want to throw that in. Go ahead. Let's go to the next one.
Glad we ended this slide on that because the next one is all about communication. It's very difficult to have a relationship with somebody and work through the problems in life if you cannot communicate with them. We want somebody who's going to talk with us about issues and be very clear. So, rhetorical question to everyone here. Does anyone feel that it would be fair if in school or at work, if we had an assignment or were expected to do something that we got reprimanded or downgraded because we didn't fit an expectation that was never said to us, never clarified? I think everyone here can say that that's a little unfair. It's the same thing with relationships. We should be asking the other person or evaluating if they have expectations and they don't feel like they need to clarify them. It's very hard to meet an expectation if the other person doesn't know. So, from the very beginning, when we're talking with somebody and we're trying to say, what are your expectations of a relationship? What are my expectations of a relationship? Where would we like to take something if we moved forward with this? And you start asking, okay, so when it comes to arguments or discussions or problems, do you feel like you need to clearly tell me what it is before you can expect me? Or am I just supposed to know certain things that are not that knowable? Because what ends up happening is we all get into miscommunication. There are always misunderstandings. And in a relationship, it's going to happen. But the difference looks like this. If I fail to clearly say something to my wife or to clarify an expectation, and she does something I don't like, I can either respond as, well, you should have known anyway, and I don't like it. And we're not going to move forward until, you apologize, do all this stuff. Or I can say, as a man, you know what? I'm going to eat it. It's okay. I should have clarified. Hey, now I'm going to clarify. Can you do this or can we do things this way in the future? I think that having somebody else like that approaches it the second way makes me feel like they're on my side, not that they're punishing me if I made a mistake, or even better yet, it's not that I necessarily made a mistake, it's that they didn't even tell me what they wanted me to do, and now I feel like I'm being punished. So if from the very beginning we can see that somebody has expectations and they don't care to clarify, we might want to stay away from them. Not only that, but if we committed to them, how would we be able to trust that what we learned from them in the beginning is actually who they are and they're not omitting anything? It's very difficult. So, tying it back to one of our earlier slides, why should and how should I trust this person? Are they clear about their expectations? And if they fail to be clear, are they able to find a way to cooperate moving forward, or do they throw blame on the person instead? Just talk to me. It's that easy. Is there anything you wanted to add, Terrance?
Um, I'll just add to this slide right here, but you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, wonderful. In male circles, whether it's friends, business partners, family, the way that we communicate and the way we make decisions is tied together in this one slide. Earlier, we talked about the guy has to be on a path of knowledge and make decisions with knowledge. And when he makes a decision, he's actually got to do something about it. So, what separates a male or other guys from men is at the point where they start becoming more mature, where an immature man is crying because things are difficult and he hopes that somebody is going to hear him crying and come to help him and expect somebody to. Whereas a man, while he's wiping away his tears because things are difficult, he does something about it. It's not that he expects nobody to help him. It's that he cannot expect everyone to do everything for him. So he gets up and while he's crying, he's doing something about his situation. He's made the decision. Now he's doing the action. And of course, we all would like other people to help us in life. So a high value man accepts help from other people. He just doesn't expect them to do everything. And you can see it in the way he moves. He starts changing what's wrong with his life or what he doesn't like before or even before anybody offers help and without everyone needing to offer help. He's already doing it. And if he's failing at it, just like we talked to before, maybe he doesn't know what he doesn't know. He's trying to figure that out. That's what separates men from boys. And it's a very quick way of when you're talking to a potential partner in front of you, how do they talk about their problems and what have they said they've done about it? And does it sound like they're trying and actually making headway to change their situation? Or do they usually blame everyone else and everything while complaining about it to you?
Exactly. One of the things I look at, and again, most of my clients are men, is I ask them, what percent of a month do you think are going to be difficult days? So let's say if you believe 5% or 10% of your month will have difficult days, what does that mean? That means that every month, 1 to 3 days a month are going to be extremely challenging. But if
Mhm.
you start from that premise, when the challenging times arrive, you're more prepared for it. And it's even myself, like I remember when I went through coaching like 10 years ago, one of the greatest statements I ever heard, because no, rarely, unless somebody has a really good mother, a really good father, when it comes to explaining emotional intelligence, people do not teach their children how to become adults. They don't teach their kids how to manage their emotions as adults, how to manage other people's emotions. A lot of times we are not taught these things. So it blew my mind to have a coach slash therapist tell me, Terrance, the problem with you and the problem with your problems is you believe you shouldn't have any problems. And who told you that? I've never had such a golden nugget given to me in one sentence. Because after he said that, my life made complete sense. Who told me my life was going to be easy as long as I keep making bad decisions? No one. And the beautiful part of this is it still left the empathy of the fact everything that happened to me to that point, yeah, people I had been mistreated, things had happened to me, but I was going to be the one to change it. It wasn't my fault, but it was my responsibility. And what I found out is if I wanted to change my life, the information was in front of me. So the first part of my life in my early 20s looked completely different than my life in my early 30s. But a big part of that was almost everybody in my life from my 20s I had to get rid of
Mhm.
because they were on the wrong side of what was good for me. And I would argue this is one of the biggest things that keep good women single or good women in problematic relationships is they keep finding themselves dating the wrong guy. You keep finding yourself in the wrong guy or going back to the wrong guy. And because of that, you're just losing time. You're losing time. Like Ryan, once I start, like even yourself, once you started being around the right people, how quickly does your life change?
One or two conversations and one or two meets.
That's all it takes.
The
And
first conversation you meet them, the second conversation you plan if you passed each other's qualifications, and a couple of actions moves you forward really quickly and solidifies a relationship. It's that simple.
we have over 11,000 people in this community. Many of the men I've already had conversations with. And
Mhm.
it's some of them need coaching, some of them need a conversation, some of them need a book to read. But like once men get it together, they got it. So, if somebody's taking 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and they still don't know what they want, I don't know when they'll ever figure it out. I don't know. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth my time to wait for someone to figure this out? Because a lot of times, this person, they might figure it out tomorrow, or they might never get it because there's likely a closet full of skeletons that they refuse to open. They refuse to see themselves the way they need to see themselves. And it's hard to make them do it. All right, let's go to the next slide.
One thing I wanted to say right before we go to the next slide is that men don't accept other males as men if those guys pretend that they're not the problem.
Oh, yeah, that's so true.
Or even if they have no idea and they don't want to know. That goes back to that first level of knowledge where they're ignorant and they don't care. That type of person is very dangerous because if they're doing something that is messing up your life and others around them, they will not change who they are, even if it's for the benefit of their own goals and dreams. So men know other men the best.
Mhm.
Start looking at whether other men who are respectable also respect them and who they spend time around. And that can give you a good idea as well.
Absolutely. And this is something that came across from me and Ryan's many coaching sessions, where, and it's that many men carry a deep, unresolved anger, not just from being hurt, betrayed, or disappointed, but from watching the people responsible continue through life as if nothing ever happened, without an apology, accountability, or acknowledgement of the damage they caused. And so, what I mean specifically is good people are good and they increase the happiness of others a lot of times. I can't keep track of the amount of money I've given men over the years who have come to me for help. Maybe they had, they needed help on their light bill, or they didn't have a car, needed a ride, or they needed this, this, this. Almost never in my life did that person ever repay me for that. Even if later on is just a conversation of thank you. They just move on like they've never done it before. And so, like, when a guy like me comes across somebody like Ryan, who has integrity, who, when the bill comes at a nice restaurant and he's trying to fight me to pay for it, it's shocking. It's like shocking. But that's what happens. What a lot of times is good people, they're not in control of where they live when growing up. They're not in control of those first friendships. And so many good guys spent their time literally being, exploited by the friends around them. And this is something that happens all the time. And you see it with professional athletes. Professional athletes usually go broke because they're trying to help out family and friends. And this is actually a very deep conversation and this is one of the ways you can actually tell whether a man was born with money or status or whether he had to create it for himself, is what was that process like of saying no to people? Because every man that started off here and became something, he had to start telling people no. He had to say, no, I'm not going to give you any more money. No, I'm not going to do this anymore. And he had to deal with the ramifications of people that were entitled to his time, to his energy, to everything. And he had to say no to all these individuals. So that's one of the reasons so many men are on the relationship, market are jaded. It's because they're used to almost everybody around them and trying to exploit them. Same thing. It's like, and this is where the empathy is. It's like how women know that a lot of men want to sleep with them. And on the other end, guys that have good stuff, like, they have a good heart, they have resources, almost everybody around them wants to use them. And it's sad, but groups of people have trouble finding each other because there's so much chaos in the middle of all these messy individuals trying to take what they have. And that's where we go. Like a lot of guys, they need coaching, they need therapy, they need counseling to talk themselves into a situation where they're fit for a long-term relationship. Because a lot of them never got that conversation from their dads. A lot of them never got their conversation from their uncles. And if you look at most male content is garbage. It starts off quote unquote helpful, but it always ends up into a way to remove men from their resources slash money. You know what I'm talking about, Ryan? If you head down most male content ladders, where it ends will always end up in a grift to remove men from their money and resources.
Yep, it derails them for the actual true meaning that they're trying to go down that path for. It's like if you were to watch a 2-minute video, like what we're talking about, the first 15 to 20 seconds are putting you on somewhat of a right path, and the next minute and a half is derailing you.
Yeah.
And it's like almost a partial truth. And one of the things that Terrance and I help people try and do, especially our clients, is start learning how to discern who's actually helpful and who might be credible. And one of the things that we've noticed is a lot of this content that we're making a comment on right now is about guys who are unhappy with their lives and are not in healthy, good, committed relationships, trying to tell other people about how to be in relationships. And they're quite often dating coaches,
Yeah.
not marriage coaches, not telling you how to do what they haven't done yet, because they're still focused on the dating stage, but they're still trying to tell you how to do things right. And they're not even successful in what they're telling you to do.
And they're usually like trying to pretend themselves to be affluent as well. So just real quick, because we're coming to the end, there's some
Hmm.
stats that are extremely important. So less than 1% of men make high six figures. Less than one. It used to be one, now it's like lower than one. But like 90% of those men are married. So when you
Hmm.
see all these random dating coaches that are talking about how to get a high level in this, and this is how you, and they're single, they're fighting their own stats. The stats don't make sense. And Ryan, as you know, in your industry and my industry, there's no in between usually. Either somebody's married or they're single. Like a bunch of guys talking about dating and stuff, and the relationship's gone longer than 2 years. Men don't even respect them. We don't buy that stuff. You know whether you want to marry her within, usually I would say 3 weeks, but you might wait anywhere between 6 months to 15 months outside of religious, communities. You definitely know fairly early. Now you might wait to look at some things, but by the time 15 months to 18 months has gone by, what are you doing? But in closing, let's go.
In closing, high value men focus on processes and how they get them results, and they change the process accordingly if they're not getting the results.
Mhm.
And when Terrance was talking about dating indefinitely, it's not a process for success.
No,
So,
no.
in closing, we wanted to thank everyone for attending.
Absolutely. We appreciate everybody's time. To all the people that couldn't make it, the YouTube will be, hopefully, we'll have it posted by Monday. And let's go to the news.
News.
So our next presentation will probably be in July or August because me and Ryan are having high level men problems. With career, there's people that are having issues in our family with careers. Ryan's planning on moving to back to Michigan. I have some stuff as, a whole another thing we didn't talk about is a lot of men right now in their 20s, but a lot of men in their 30s and 40s are dealing with their parents getting older. And
Mhm.
some people planned for those elderly years, other people didn't. And that's a huge issue. And you can kind of tell like the responsibility that a guy is going through based on how that situation is. So like my family's leaning on me, and I have at least seven elderly family members that are in different levels of needing assistance. So we'll plan to have our next talk probably July or August, probably August. And that we're going to start going over 101 questions to ask before you date someone. And then hopefully we're going to start doing regular stuff again either bi-weekly or sometimes maybe even weekly. It depends on what our schedules look like. Um,
Mhm.
Also, if here's the workbook. If you haven't got it already, the workbook is extremely in depth. There's no way you can go through all 230 pages and actually fill it out and not have a great understanding on men, but more so your love map of what you have found attractive and what has worked and what hasn't worked. This was asked to be done last year, and we've completed it. When did we complete it, Ryan? Like November, December? I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
yeah. So it's in the chat. It's on Amazon. It's in color, so it's actually like better than a lot of relationship books that are like stale. It's in color and a lot of illustrations. So your support is appreciated. And let's get started with Q&A, Ryan. All right. Andra, do you want to get started with the questions? Also, if anyone has any,
Yes.
like, if you want to talk to us, you can just put your hands up on here and we can also talk to you that way as well.
Okay. The first question is there value in getting information knowledge, or some type of benefit from a lower level person before you decide to cut them off? Or could this put you in a precarious position?
My question is your heart connected to that person? If your heart's connected to that person, it can be very dangerous to communicate with them. Um, Now, if we're just trying to get information about how this problematic person thinks because we want to understand more about how problematic people think, well, that's very different. That's very similar to what I do as a criminologist. I spend a lot of my time, and I have spent a lot of my time talking to problematic individuals because I want to understand exactly how they think so I know how to prepare and protect people from them. So, as long as we're looking and getting the knowledge for the future, that's good. Just be safe out there. Next question.
Okay, the next question is, get my mouse to cooperate. Uh,
Appreciate you.
in the age of the heavy use of AI generated images, can you touch a bit on the importance of meeting people in person to evaluate them?
Want to take that, Ryan?
Sure. A relationship is lived in person. And when you're in person, it's very hard for somebody to run away from their actions and who they are. So if you build a relationship in a different manner than the way you intend to live it, it's very difficult to ever realize the way you would like to live it in the first place. So the value of getting to know somebody in person and meet them in person is you're seeing firsthand in some manner, not filtered through some online thing where they can lie and use different photos or use now AI even when they're on video chat with you, right? To use an avatar or pretend they're somebody else or even use AI chatbots to respond to you. No, they have to be who they are in front of you in person without that help. And it can help you not only weed out people who are trying to lie about themselves, but it can even make you feel a little bit more comfortable about somebody who seems like a good idea, giving you more reason to think that they're actually a good idea rather than being left in the dark. The way that you interact with them in person, you can is the most raw experience that can help you decide whether it's worth it or not. And you're going to have to live that, right? If you wake up next to the person in the morning and you want to talk to them, if they have to go and ask ChatGPT how to respond, that's not a relationship. So by meeting somebody in person, you take away the ability of them to rely on things outside of themselves in order to interact with you. They've got to be real.
One of the questions I ask, and I've never gotten a good answer from this, and I've been asking this question for years to all types of men, is if a man is truly attractive and honest and useful in real life, why is he on a dating website?
Mhm.
If this man is actually good in real life, why hasn't one of the women around him
Yeah.
tried to enter into a relationship with him?
Yeah.
And I've never got a good answer. In like in the world that I live in, where the guys pay their, just be frank, the guys around me, they pay their bills, they pay their wife's bills. They're no matter what the economy is, whether it's a bear market, whether it's a bull market, they find ways to be successful. I don't see these guys not being able, if they want a relationship, they're in a relationship.
Mhm.
What I have found throughout my coaching sessions is when you find an attractive guy online, it takes 3 to 6 months, but eventually you'll figure out why he's online. You will eventually figure out why the women around him did not choose to have a relationship with him. So I'm more of a paranoid person because if something doesn't make sense, then it's probably not the truth. And I also understand male behavior, which is if you want to understand basic male behavior, there's a concept called Occam's razor, which is the most simplest explanation is usually correct. So when you come across somebody, especially a male, that's been online for a very long time. And the question is, why is he that way? There's usually a personality type. There's usually certain issues that are going on, which are persuading the women that have better access to him, that really know of him. They are persuaded to stay away from him. And I'm not saying every guy is bad. All I'm saying is make it make sense. And if something doesn't make sense, that's for them to explain. You know, Ryan, as you know, I got a family member going through a divorce right now because of a man that she met online. That within 15 minutes, I could tell he was garbage. Remember when I told you he was garbage last year? Yeah, within
Hmm.
15 minutes of meeting him in person, I said, this guy's trash. And now it's terrible because this is a family member I care very, very much for. But now she has a child with him and they're going through a divorce. And it's so sad because this person fell in love with him before he could be properly evaluated by a cutthroat man like myself who's going to see right through that bull crap. But I digress, man. All right, let's go to the next one.
Next question.
Okay. What does prioritizing your partner look like?
So when I think of prioritizing my partner, it's I need to be the best version of me so I can be my best version to her. And that's truly what I look at as being a husband. Is the smarter I am, the more empathetic I am, the more adaptable I am, the more we have agreed to a plan. Like behind me, you know, in that chest over there, in those books, one of them is my goals for the next 3 to 5 years. The other one is me and my wife's goals for the next 3 to 5 years. And when we find something important, or I find something important for me, we update that. So everybody's on the same page. And it's not coming up with excuses so I can be a worse version of myself. You know, there's things that I know she needs, there's things she cares about. And, you know, in male circles, it's come sometime called, especially younger male circles, it's main character syndrome. I'm not the main character sometimes. I have to play a support role to help other people out. And there's some individuals out there that they don't know how to be a support role. They don't know how to do that. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you answered it well.
Okay.
Next question.
What about when a man is always the victim or saying God has them going through a dark season? This person struggles with this and would like guidance.
You mind if I take that one, Terrance?
Can I just say the psychological
Okay,
principle right quick though?
go ahead. Yeah.
So that's actually something to watch out for. Researcher Spikes and Matza created something called the techniques of neutralization. And these are usually the ways that problematic people will deflect blame. So anytime somebody's appealing to a higher authority for their problems or doing deflecting of accountability, deflecting of injustice, they're not operating at a level of empathy and connectiveness that's necessary for a long-term relationship. So, my advice is if they refuse to change, you have to decide if that's the life you want to live. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
I think that's well said. The only thing I wanted to add is how do we know, right, if this person is blaming God or somebody else or a higher authority, like Terrence is talking about, that it's not actually them that's the reason that they're going through a quote unquote dark season? It's you got to be very careful because it could be true. Like, hey, for all the religious people out there, right? You know, who believe in God, if God wants something for you, it's going to happen. You can't run away from it. And sometimes that includes hardship and tests. Fine. But a stable, reasonable person will always ask themselves first, is this because I did it to myself? It's not automatically, must be somebody else and they're the reason, especially when it comes to God. Because if you're a believer in God, whatever God does is good. Therefore, if it's bad or you feel bad and you're blaming it on him, we already have this weird uh, inconsistency with I believe something and now I'm throwing blame on the person that I believe something opposite about. It's not stable. And what that means or translates to in a relationship, hey, they're throwing God under the bus here. Why can't they throw you under the bus?
One
If
thousand.
things if things get difficult in life, are they going to say, "Hey, let's talk about it. What could I be doing better? What could we both be doing better?" Or they're going to say, "Man, this is all your fault." Without any reason, just automatically. They're going to be looking at you. I would rather not have not even a friend that if there's a misunderstanding or a difficult time, they immediately point the finger at me and start a fight. I don't think anybody wants that in their life. But especially the older we get, we don't have time for that. So be very careful.
That's a heck of an analogy, and it's so true. If that person will throw God under the bus, they will happily throw you under the bus and ride that bus right over you.
Mhm.
Nice. All right. All right. Next question.
Okay, if most content that men are turning to is a grift, where can they go for credible information? What sources should they be using to find out to whom and where they should be turning for sage advice?
This is so difficult because it's like, Ryan, like one of the issues with like our parents is a lot of our parents can't see the difference between AI generated content and real content.
Mhm.
Like many times my dad will send me a video and I'm like, Dad, that's AI. And I can just tell immediately. The hard part is to get the eye of knowing what makes sense and doesn't make sense. Me and Ryan are actually going to do an entire talk on that because we actually had like 40 more slides, but we had to cut it down. That's the hard part of having this much information. Like we do this, I do this for a living. Ryan, you do all kind of great things, and then you come and do this as well. Your time is so valuable. We appreciate you. Is there's so much to talk about. Like there's so much to talk about. There's so much to show. And the hard part is telling someone, if I was starting on square one, so like when I get a client and I get a male client and we start on square one, first thing we talk about is our health. First, that's the first thing we talk about. Because if you don't feel good, it's hard to do good. So first thing we do is I put this person on a nutritional slash gym program, whether you work out at home or you work out, at the gym. The other things is the person has to read content that other successful men read and watch content other successful men watch. So, for instance, right now, if somebody has a basic YouTube channel, like if I'm a basic man and I'm looking at basic content, like one of the biggest things going on right now is that AP watch for $500. The one I showed you, Ryan, that $500
Mhm.
watch. So many people are going crazy over that watch. They're trying to flip that watch. They think this is going to be their new way to make money. What are men that are in high positions making money that can take care of families? What are they watching right now? Well, they're watching non-duplicatable assets. So non-duplicatable assets are like land, certain sports cars, art. That's what men like me and other men are talking about. Because we're just sitting at home watching certain things become ridiculously expensive. And but also other things are becoming ridiculously valuable. So one of the ways you're dealing with high level men is high level men look at assets, appreciating assets. Low level men are constantly looking for hustles. They're looking for the new big thing that's going to change their life without actually having to understand life. So if you go back 2 or 3 years, what was it? They were trying to get into IT real quickly because IT was going to make them rich. Then they were looking at NFTs. NFTs were going to make them rich. Before that, cryptocurrency was going to make them rich. There's always these hustles, and they find themselves completely getting hustled from smarter people. High level men are focused on getting good at a particular thing. So there's a lot of things I don't know. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. I focus on relationships and criminology. That's my thing. Ryan is good at tech. He's good at AI and he's good at being an engineer. So our content is all figured out on getting smart on that. When you're watching a bunch of men that are not terribly interested in being an expert in something, that is a sign that you're watching a grift slash men that are not in it for the long term. Anything else you could add to that?
Take any real expert in any technical field, and you'll realize that most people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So when you're starting out from basic foundation of understanding, what most people gravitate towards is the lowest level of understanding. And you can gain stuff from that, but the problem is most people stop there. What often the YouTube videos and the books and certain things that have helped me weren't just the same ones that all the successful people are reading. Sometimes it's even more harder to find than that. And I only found it because I was really looking for it and knew what I was looking for. So often the things that are millions and millions of views on YouTube that claim to be gurus or sages, I'm not going to comment on whether they are or not, but I'm not sure the actual content in that video is going to be what you consider sage advice. Because whether you're talking about kung fu movies, you're talking about actual spiritual guides and mentors, some of the most respectable people who ever lived, right? Even if we want to talk about stories of Jesus in the Bible, many times the people around him struggle to understand. So when we're talking about sage advice is given to people who are ready. But if we do not have a good foundation, then that type of advice won't help us. So we got to be really careful when somebody is claiming to give us sage advice and they know nothing about us. Because a real mentor and someone who can really help you is going to start asking about your specifics. So having somebody, another man in your life, somebody you can trust, or understanding what successful people watch, listen to, read, or talk about can be a very good lens of how to look at some of the other more popular things. But don't let somebody sell you something that this is going to fix your life and this is all you need. And they never had the conversation with you to help you. They're making the content for everyone, a blanket statement hoping it'll help. And there are things that, generically speaking, help most people in their problems. But sage advice is surgical and it's specific to the person.
No
So
doubt.
that's why I would be very careful about people who claim to have the magic answer and who are giving sage advice.
Absolutely. I hope we answered the question. If not, please clarify. You can ask even more. But all right, let's go to the next question.
The next question is, where might I go to find quality men if I happen to have a disability? Where is it where is it difficult to do the physical things such as golfing, which was mentioned in previous seminars? Sorry, my dog's making noises.
No
In
problem.
which quality men congregate and participate? Where would I find them?
I always try to keep it simple. So where whatever disability you have, is there places where that disability where people are present and having fun? So like there's a I've never been there, but for men that are in wheelchairs, there's like all kind of communities that they've created, playing all types of sports and stuff. We
Hmm.
want to look at where can we go to meet people and have conversations with people? Where can we go? So I can't stress this enough. Quality men are found in quality conversations. Like when I say high level men, there's nothing physically that a woman can show him that he hasn't already seen. I'm serious. Like high level men, one of the ways you know you're high level is that you've proven your ability to turn down sex from women. You've had that discipline. Show me a guy that started doing well for himself and a 22 or 24-year-old intern didn't throw herself out. It happens all the time. All the time. And so, like, what happens with a lot of men is that they've never gone through that process of having discipline, of having sexual discipline. So then once it happens and it's available, they don't even know how to respond. Don't even know how to respond. So you want to be in places where the you can show you like your thought process are, what you want from life, where you want to go, all of these things. And so they start with who are the people around you? What kind of friends do you have? And what kind of conversations do you have with those friends? Are the conversations of which, and this is really important because men have big ears, like the wolves in cartoons, men have big ears. They're constantly listening to what's around them. And Ryan, like when me and you or me and you and other men go to coffee shops or places, it doesn't take long for the other men to try to gravitate around us because they want to hop in our conversation. And they're just looking
Hmm.
for an excuse to hop in our conversation. But on the flip side, if a woman is having high level conversations, when I say high level, one of the things is when you start talking about goals, accountability, what you're looking for in life, what you've noticed. These are the types of things that get men's attention. Real love that a man has for a woman usually starts with the phrase, she makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
If he doesn't think that she makes sense, he will not, a smart guy is not going to talk to her. It's never going to happen.
Hmm.
So in areas where you can show what you're good at or what you're interested in and what you're passionate of, those are where I would go. But again, it's difficult, especially with disabilities, but there's always a way. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
There are places that have nothing to do with some of the. There are places that are always friendly to certain disabilities. For instance, if somebody's in a wheelchair, it doesn't mean that they can only meet men doing sports. Now, with that being said, there's also Paralympics. I know, or I have an acquaintance of mine is the U.S. Rapier gold winner from the Paralympics for fencing in Rapier some few years ago, right? There's still a way to do that, but there are intellectual pursuits, there are classes, there are areas that you can convene in where you get to know and talk with people, like Terrance said, that could be friendly. But at the end of the day, your best bet is whatever disability you have. I can almost guarantee that there are other people out there that going, I wish we had this ability to meet together with other people like us, and there isn't a group, and they made a group.
1000%. It's kind of like something that people don't think about is just whatever ailment is happening to you, that's likely happening to thousands and thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And create a group where we
Hmm.
might be $55 away from solving that problem, which is that's how much it costs to create a group on Meetup or something
Hmm.
like that. Is, individuals always want to connect. And this is actually something that I do with a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with is if something bothers you or you think something should exist, We don't want to have the bystander effect of not creating it. Because if you would benefit, probably a bunch of other people would benefit. And before you know it, you found your own community. I mean, what, not even a year and a half ago, this place didn't exist. That's,
Hmm.
I've had the ability to communicate with now thousands and thousands of more people that I wasn't communicating with and all this, but it all started with $55 and the agreement that me and Ryan would do this. So
Next question.
It says, are there pretty big indicators of red flags, or does it naturally take 3 to 6 weeks or up to 6 months to figure out to know if they are good guy to date?
depends on that person's skill set. Like, how good are you with noticing problematic behavior? I'm a big believer that in general, you want to know what a guy's about, get another guy that's really good at watching behavior to look at that guy and watch that guy. Because the community, especially when we're talking about who this person is, because a lot of male behavior we cut down all the fluff. It's who you are, where you're going, and where are you on that journey. So if I stay on that topic, I'm going to get an assessment of who this person is within 15 to 30 minutes. And then I can look and see, based on what they say they are, what are things that they should have encountered? What are things that they should know? But then, even further, even if I don't see this person for 3 or 6 months, if I come back in 3 to 6 months and they haven't made any progress, now we have a problem. Because it's like, did you lie to me last time we talked? A lot of dating, one of the reasons that it doesn't go anywhere is because it's just fluff. Like, how hard is it to have a good time eating food? How hard is it having a good time going to the movies? It's like, what are we actually talking about here? A lot of relationships, unfortunately, whether we want to admit it or not, if you made it more like a contract, you would have better outcomes, which is, this is what you can expect from me. This is what I expect from you. Here are some goals I have. Let's go do them together. And then it's really easy to figure out who somebody is by holding them accountable for production in real time. And so let's say somebody says, hey, especially right now, when so many people are losing their jobs, there's so many people going into new careers, it might sound silly, but ask him like, hey, what are some goals that you really had for your life? And then he tells you, all right, now start. Let's start together. I'll give you, I'm here for support, but let's do it together. I want to see that this person has the discipline to do what they say they're going to do and be who they say they're going to be. I'm not, I don't want guessing. Preferably, I would like to observe this person before they know that I'm even interested in them. So, like, before I married my wife, I observed her. I observed her before she knew I was observing her. So, like, by the time I actually communicated with her, I already had a decent idea of who she was. And after the first conversation, now we're coming together with, this is who I thought she was. This is who she says she is. Now let's come to an agreement of how we would be as a couple. Okay, can we come to that agreement? All right, cool. Now we're off to the races. But if you haven't agreed to certain behavior together, if you haven't agreed to certain support systems of you supporting him and him supporting you, we're just we're just talking. That's not heading anywhere. What are your points, Ryan?
I think you said it eloquently. Nothing for me to add.
And real men love accountability. They love knowing what they can expect from a relationship and knowing what that person expects from them. They
Mhm.
that they hate ambiguity. So
Clear expectations.
yeah, if somebody's running away from clear expectations, that's like somebody trying to get you to sign a contract where the terms are unclear. That's likely that you might want to watch out for.
It's like in elementary school, we there was a kid in my class who was being bullied, and he tried to trick someone by having them sign a contract, but there was 2 pages stapled together where he just said sign on this page, but then there's a page hidden. And so he thought he could trick somebody into putting on paper that he's signing a contract. It's like,
Oh,
no, it doesn't, it makes no sense.
oh, oh, you're a non-trustworthy individual. Mm-mm.
Yeah. I apologize to everybody. I have some prior commitments and I tried to stay on as long as possible, but I do need to go. So, Terrance, are you staying on a little bit longer to answer the last couple of questions?
Yeah, there's only a couple questions. I'll stay on and
Sweet.
answer.
So Terrence is going to stay on to finish the last couple. He'll let you know when he can get off or when he's leaving. But thank you to everybody who attended today, everybody who's viewing this recording on YouTube. Thank you for your questions. And if you need any more help or have any other questions, please talk to Terrence or I or one of our moderators. They have kindly put our contact information, our YouTube, and the Patreon in the chat multiple times. And if you need it again, please just ask for it. Sometimes, if there are other questions that pop up that we can't get to or they require more in depth, we often end up answering them on Patreon. So we encourage you guys to at least check out the Patreon.
Yeah,
Thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.
yeah. Catch you later, Ryan. All right, I know there's a few left. All right, let's knock those out.
Is it possible to create a training for young adult women in dating, please?
It's really difficult to do. And I say this because often what would get somebody married or get attention really quickly is the direct opposite of what mainstream society tells people they should do. So if I got enough individuals that were like serious and they like sent me like a Patreon message, and they're like really serious, and I would do it. But what often happens is people don't want to do that work. They don't want to do that when it's difficult because, and this is the unfortunate thing, most, especially young women, and I say young, anywhere between 25 to 34, they were not taught how to get married. They were not taught how to get married, and they were not taught what men look for. And it's hard because I will have somebody that they think they want that information until you give it to them, and then they fight you on the information. It's kind of one of the reasons it's extremely difficult to find a married woman to teach a lot of women how to get married. Like I've tried. I've tried many times to get married women on this platform to talk about it, but they say that their people won't listen to them, so they won't do it. So if I got enough individuals that were serious about it, I would put together a training. But it's difficult. It's difficult because if I told you certain things, it's like, would you go through with it? So just off the bat, most women that are married to high level men, especially high level entrepreneurs, there's an influx of them that are real estate agents. And it's why. It's because with the IRS, there is a special tax code called the REPS, Real Estate Professional Service, that allows somebody who is a real estate agent and does 750 hours a year as a real estate agent to write off certain depreciations. Okay, this is extremely important to high level men. So, for instance, let's say I made a $500,000, and let's say my wife is doing certain real estate deals. She could write off a certain amount of the depreciation. So instead of me paying 190,000 in taxes, maybe I don't only have to pay 10, or I pay nothing. So these are the types of things that like women that are married to high level men, a lot of them know this. So a lot of times, and it's hard to hear, the reason that this person hasn't found a high level man to marry is they don't understand the ecosystem that that guy lives in. They don't. And that it would take a serious commitment to learn it. Because the guys that are single, like I know some guys that are single, but they usually get married soon. So like a guy would be like 31, he'd be like, all right, I made my money, I want to get married, I want to take care of a family. He's usually married to somebody in less than a year to a year and a half. But there's all these things that he's going to be looking for, and it's unfortunate if somebody hasn't been taught these things. Again, I'm talking about guys like myself. I'm not talking about a guy that's like 50, 55, 65, living in a 55 and up community. That's a whole different type of person. But when you talk about young women, it's difficult because it's almost teaching somebody things that their parents didn't teach them. And that usually takes time, and it has to be done individually. That's like taking someone on as a coaching client, and I'm not taking we me and Ryan can't take any more coaching clients. We just don't have time. But I appreciate the question. I'm just letting you know it's very difficult because one of the biggest lies that have been perpetrated throughout society is that men are easy. No, they are not. They are easy if what they want is simple. But like men that are trying to get married now, a lot of them are very picky, and they're picky about certain things. And they're picky because they saw their parents get divorced, they saw their friends get divorced, and the desire of trust is very low. There's not a lot of trust anymore between men and women in a lot of cases. So the guys that are really great guys that make good incomes, they can take care of a family, they're dedicated, they're not going to cheat on you, that are still single after the age of like 32 to 35, that's a small pool. That's a small pool. And to get somebody ready to date in that pool, they're usually like a very ambitious woman. So the clients that I have, and I see some of them in this chat, these are women that are like lawyers. Some of them are doctors, some of them are accountants. These are people that want that type of lifestyle. And more, the separation between men that are serious and men that are not serious is like the difference between left and right. And it shows in their life, it shows in everything. Just like how America is becoming a country where that's just rich or poor, like you're getting to a place where men are just good or bad. And I hate saying it, but as somebody that does this for a living, that's all you got. And the good ones are really, really good, but the bad ones are really, really bad. And the people that are in the middle, they just get swayed whatever direction. So I know that was a long-winded response, but that question has so many layers.
Okay, I think this one is related to that. It says, what about for older women over 50 and over 60? Would they be interested and international? Maybe the person can speak up and raise their hand and ask for clarification.
Canada. So instead of just the US. So you mentioned about real estate in the US, and so I'm going, if you're not in the US, uh, I'm just wondering if you would do if you're talked about courses and like for the younger women, but what about us older women who are looking uh, to meet men? Is there any interest in creating something for us who want to meet and not being in the US, the real estate angle? Like, do we all have to go into real estate? So that's where international came in, because I don't live in the US, so things that you do in the US would not necessarily apply to me.
Okay. So when it comes to older men, it's easier because, and it's ironic, it's easier because a lot of men after that age, they're just trying to have a decent quality of life. They're often not still trying to be out in the world, conquering and building their legacies. They're usually a lot of them are a little bit more low key, so they're a little bit easier to find. So by finding the man, it's often finding how we want to live. So how would you want to live? So do you like to fish? Do you like to like that's where you find the guy usually. You find the guy in the activity that the guy is laid back doing.
Yeah, I find the expression that a lot of people say at that stage is a lot of them are looking for a nurse or a purse, and you don't want to be either. Like, and some of them, I mean, I've just gotten away from the online stuff, but just looking at some of them, it's like, I golf, I ski, like they're a very athletic women, and a lot of women when you get to be that age, end up osteoporosis. You can't do as physically, you still feel like I like to travel. So, I mean, I'm going to end up joining some travel groups or doing some solo traveling in groups to meet others. But a lot of time, anything I'm interested or in, it ends up being women, like trying to take exercise classes. Most of them are all women. Anything you try and do, dinner groups or dancing group, it's like, I haven't met any of the men there that were interested. So it's like, I set the bar pretty high. So you keep trying to do things, but a lot of them, it just ends up you're meeting women. The majority is women. So whether it's a city, I mean, I live in a big city, but it's just attracting the right quality. That's just it. Keep doing things that interest you to end up meeting people that have similar interests. But anyhow, it hasn't been working. So I just keep working on raising my vibration and improving. What can I do that needs to be different? So anyhow, that's why I'm just trying to express. It's like keep working. I bought the book and the workbook. I have to still read through it, but it takes you have to keep working on you.
Yeah.
But I'm just was curious if it's anything else, if there's anything geared, because it's like that seems to be a big market, and there seems to be more women. The men have more choice, I guess, because there's more women as you get older.
Yeah, well, there's that. And the other question I want to ask is when you say you're around a lot of groups with women, are they married women or single women?
More single women. I go to sign up for meetup groups, and so some of them are more single women. And I end up going to, well, I mean, exercise classes. It's mixed, right? You go to sign up for exercise classes geared more for the people over 50 sort of thing, geared or people, in that age bracket sort of thing that are starting, getting their physical activity. You said work on eating well, work on exercising. Those are you start at the ground level.
Hmm.
So it's usually single women. I go to the meetups for, uh, most people tend to be single there. But I haven't met any. Some of the men are single as well too, but I haven't met anybody or the ones it's the same old thing like it's like high school again. The ones you're interested in aren't interested in you, and the ones that are interested in you, you have no interest.
Correct. So, how about one of the questions I'm going to ask is the women around you, have any of them been able to give you a referral towards a good guy? Are they able to refer you to say, hey, I know a good guy. I know this.
No, no,
Okay.
I haven't gotten anything like that.
Then my statement is, and it's going to be tough, then why are you around these people? So,
Yeah, I'm questioning all that.
yeah.
That's I'm trying to go. It's like, yep, maybe you have to look for trying new groups. That's what I'm looking at now. It's trying to find a new group, trying to find new activities. Gotta go. I've been here for a year or two, and this isn't working out the way I just had a small group, and it's not. And they're focused on trying to find people of their own. So I'm going time to look for new grounds.
Exactly. So that's one of the big things with these places is you're better off making friends with married women that know quality married men. So like high quality people stay around each other. So I don't hang around single men.
Mhm.
Single men, their presence is usually useless to me unless we're talking about business. So if somebody's looking for like a wife, well, I would go to my wife and say, do you know anyone? So
Mhm.
when we talk about high level situations, it's a referral system. It's really a referral system where I know somebody, and especially somebody that's 55 and older. It's like, okay, do you know a widower? Do you know somebody that's gone through this, gone through this, gone through this? And, like my wife is really into sewing. There's a lot of cool sewing communities. And I'm not saying you have to join, but
No.
wherever people are doing things where they're getting better together, but preferably where you can be around married women. Because married women have the pulse to where the to where the married men are, but because of that, they know where of the other quality men are. Like at my age, you don't find a bunch of like guys in their 30s that have their life together that are single. It ain't happening. Like in general, if a guy has his life together and he's in his 30s and he wants a relationship, he's it's not hard for him to get married. But when somebody's in their 50s, you there's a lot of guys, even in their 60s, there's guys that are solid people. They might be golfing, they might be fishing, they might be doing whatever, but if we don't have access to that community, it's hard to find them. Um,
I
again,
do, I do have married friends. Most of my friends that I was married before, so I do have married friends, but none of them are, nobody seems to know any single guys because they've been in that community. And same thing with, I was, anyhow, my original husband came from a referral and anyhow, that's another story.
yep, it's a referral. So there's certain things that guys are into, especially now. So pickleball is huge.
Mhm.
Almost every activity that is leisure is out there. There's a
Mhm.
community for it that as long as somebody's willing to get better. So like my mom is 70 years old and she has to beat the guys away with a stick because she knows how to play golf.
Yeah.
There's always a guy trying to marry her because she knows how to play golf. My mom doesn't want to get married anymore. She doesn't want to date, but she's a really good golfer. The other thing, there's a rule. Men have a hard time ignoring excellence. So there's
Mhm.
an understanding that men love to see beautiful women. My argument is they love to see beauty, period. So if a guy is in phenomenal shape, it will be hard for other men not to notice them. Anytime somebody shows phenomenal activities, men notice that, whether that's somebody that's really good at speaking, their logic is really good. I have a client that takes care of horses. Her horses are in amazing shape, and the guys just swoon over her horses. The horses are like the easiest way for her to meet guys because they love her horses. But any place where somebody can practice being good at something, you will likely meet high quality men. Because I always want to say this is high quality men are found in high quality spaces, and high quality spaces are spaces that there's a standard of behavior. If there's no standard of behavior, how do you keep the place quality? And so that's why it ends up being a referral system.